and welcome to the GEW Global Entrepreneurship Week Story of an Entrepreneur interview series. Today I've got with me Nathaniel Smith from Student Minds project at the University of New South Wales. I'm Anthony Chansomove from ANF Consulting, and welcome Nate.
Thank you, Anthony.
Alright Nate, so could you tell us about your personal entrepreneur story?
Well, I'm obviously not from Australia, as you can tell from the accent. I was born in the UK, and my story towards social entrepreneurship started for me in uni when I was seriously depressed in my second year and first year. And that led me to start looking at, well, what solutions can we as students and young people create to help solve this problem? The problem that lots of students were struggling with their own mental health. So, in my final year, I came up with this program that was all about student mental health groups, and it was about empowering young people to raise awareness of mental health, educate other students about mental health. And then I started getting interested in, okay, well, this program works and it's great, but how do we take it to other universities around the UK? You know, we're one university, there are nearly 200 across the country. How can we have more of an impact? And then I came across the tools of social business, social entrepreneurship, looking at not just the typical kind of charitable way of doing things, relying on donations and grants, but how can we actually generate revenue from what we're doing? How can we make this sustainable? How can we measure our impact? And that took us to 25 universities across the UK. And then, for some reason, I decided that it would be a good idea to come out here to Australia. Got contacted by a university over here. They said, we love this project, we love this initiative, and we don't have anything like this over here at the moment. Could you come out and help us? I said, yeah, why not?
Wonderful. Okay, so how did you actually take something from one location and then spread that to 25 locations?
By the time I had finished setting up the one I was doing, there were about kind of 8 or 10 at varying degrees of development around the country. So we then wanted to scale that up to 25, as well as supporting the ones that are already out there. And we gave ourselves 6 months to do that, which was a bit ambitious. And I think in hindsight, you'd reflect on something like that and say you shouldn't really focus just on reach, you should focus on your impacts most of all. And we got caught up on just the numbers of how many places are we at. But in terms of the process for taking that, well, firstly, you have to show that it's something that people want. You have to get people involved. We needed students, so we had to draw students to the program, show that it was something that would be rewarding, challenging, fun to be part of, show universities that it was valuable for them to invest in. So you really had to demonstrate value. You had to have a team that was able to implement it at those universities. You had to have the resources in place that guide you through that process of setting up a new group and making it into something sustainable. And the resources, that means funding, it means you need the appropriate expertise, it means you need online channels in our case so that we could reach out to students in these other universities. And it also needed a strategy, it needed a clear plan of how we were going to get there and what our obvious deliverables were so we could move along that roadmap.
Thank you. So what would be 3 things that you would recommend to someone who's starting out to make sure that they can learn from your experience?
The first thing is to recognize your idea is not original in any way. There are other people that have done it. There is already action out there. And if you can learn from what else has already been done, you can kind of focus your own idea. So number 1, I'd say thoroughly research what else is out there. Once you've got a clear concept of what it looks like, bring on other people who are going to be able to make that happen. Fact is, when you bring on other people, you will see a lot of change in terms of how your model, how your program looks. Other people give you different ideas. We can't really bounce things off our own brain, but other people will help a lot more with that process, if nothing more than a sounding board. And there's only so much you can do by yourself anyway. And then I'd say once you've got those 2 things done, once you've really done your research, once you've got people who are going to help you make this happen, look at how you're going to pilot it. And don't go in with the perception of, yeah, this is going to go national. Go in with the perception of how can we make this work on a very small level, and how can we evidence that it works on that small level.
Wonderful. So what does social entrepreneurship mean to you?
Okay, for me, I like Ashoka's definition of it, which is that it is essentially anyone who is coming up with innovative and collaborative solutions to social problems. For me, it doesn't just mean setting up a whole new organisation, a whole new non-profit. I heard that in Australia it's one non-profit for every 40 people, which is a bit excessive from my view, and there are a lot of organisations setting up to tackle similar problems. I think we don't necessarily need more organisations. What we do need is different programs, different ways of working together, and more innovations from within what we've currently got. So I think for me that's what defines social entrepreneurship. It is looking at an area that is currently not being solved by government or by an existing organisation, and exploring innovative ways to solve that problem, and then looking at how that solution, if it works, and you have to make sure that it works, looking at A, how you can make it sustainable, and B, how it can be scaled. It might be through setting up an organisation, it might be working with one that is already in place and using their structure.
So sustainability is a big buzzword. How do you define sustainability?
I think it means that whatever your impact is, whatever programs you're setting up, they are able to stand up for themselves. And whether that is an organisation that you've built to support those individual programs, or whether you set the program up and then kind of leave it to it. And I think sustainability is not just from a financial point of view, but it's also your adaptability as an organisation. And you've got to think about, how is it going to cope with the inevitable changes that happen in this sector that you're working in, and how is it going to be well placed to deal with those? How is it going to be able to move forward? So from our point of view, I guess we're looking at the trends in the higher education sector, in the not-for-profit sector more generally, and how we can think ahead and plan for those, continue to bring on people who will be able to bring in fresh ideas, and be able to adapt to those transitions. But I think on the point of sustainability, the interesting thing is, well, what if what you're doing isn't needed anymore? And what if you've already set up these programs and you can just leave them to get on with it, and the organisation you set up to cultivate those programs no longer has a use? I think sustainability for the sake of sustainability is pointless, but you've got to look at it in the context of what you're trying to achieve and what sustainability means for your program. And for us, that means having a presence on every campus that is improving the mental health of students.
Where do you find high quality people to work with you on your business? How do you attract those people?
I think you've got to go into networking with a focus, and I found you're going to get a lot more traction talking to people if you can come in and say, this is exactly where our project's at, this is where we want to take it, and this is exactly why we need your expertise. If you kind of fumble around and say, well, I've heard that you've done this and you've done that, and it might be quite useful to come in, then these people don't have much time. They're often very busy, very passionate about their own projects, so you've got to give them a very clear distinction as to why you need them and what their help is going to help you and your project achieve in the long run.
So Nate, what is the next step for your program?
Well, for us, we are just finishing kind of pilot phase 1, and that's been really positive so far. What we've learned from that is, yes, the model works like we've seen in the UK. It does apply in the Australian context. However, there's a lot more potential within it. So we're looking at some very exciting developments as to how we can make it bigger and have a bigger impact on one campus, and then opening that program up to other universities.
Thank you for your time today, Nate. And how can people actually get in contact with you if they want to find out more about your project?
Probably drop me an email is the easiest way. If they're interested in Student Minds, then my email is nathaniel.smith@unsw.edu.au.
Alright, awesome. So catch Nate and Student Minds with their awesome, amazing project, and stay in touch with us on australianentrepreneurship.com and look out for our next interviews for GEW. Okay, we'll catch you next time. Cheers.